Concrete is one of the most important ingredients in any building. For large structures, the quality and strength of the substance must be a very high standard. If the concrete is substandard, there are risks that the building or parts of the building could collapse. When buildings are multi-story, there are many considerations taken into account to support the live and dead weights. On large structures, the concrete is usually delivered ready mixed. Each load delivered must be tested and the results recorded in the laboratory of the manufacturer. The load is delivered to the site and a sample is taken and tested. There are two types of tests performed, a slump test and a cube test. The slump test is performed to check the amount of water in the load, while the cube test confirms strength. On-site scoops of concrete are taken at intervals as the load is being deposited. The sample is then taken for immediate testing. For the slump test, the concrete is scooped into an open-ended metal cone. The cone is 300 millimeters high, with a top diameter of 100 millimeters and a bottom diameter of 200 millimeters. The tester holds the cone with his feet and uses a tamping rod to push the concrete around the cone using exactly 25 strokes. This is repeated 3 times, allowing the tamping rod to penetrate just into the previous layer. When the cone is filled, the rod is moved across the top diameter in a sawing or rolling action to level the concrete. All excess concrete is then cleared away from the top and the bottom. The cone is then removed vertically with both hands, taking care not to disturb the concrete. From start to finish, the slump test process should take no longer than 2.5 minutes. The cone is inverted beside the just formed concrete shape. The rod is placed across the cone, and the distance between the underside of the rod and highest point of the concrete shape is measured to the nearest 5 millimeters. The measurement is the slump. This measurement should be a maximum of 60 millimeters and a minimum of 40 millimeters if the concrete is to pass the test. The cube test is a test for strength and must also be carried out quickly once the load has been delivered to site. The metal form is 150 millimeters cubed. The cube is prepared by assembling the steel molds and painting with striking oil so that the concrete will not stick to the sides. 2 identical cubes are made at a time. The mold is then filled in layers of approximately 50 millimeters deep at a time. Each layer is compacted by either vibrating or hand tamping. When the top layer has been compacted, the surface is smoothed using a steel float. The cubes are then numbered and labelled. Immediately after the cubes have been made, they must be placed in an area free from vibration with a relative humidity of 90 degrees. The cube is kept moist by covering the mold with a damp cloth. The concrete sets in approximately 24 hours. The formwork is then removed by the tester, who immediately cleans the molds and prepares them for reuse. After demolding, the cubes are permanently numbered and transferred into a curing tank. The tank is filled with water. They are left submerged for a minimum of 7 days and no longer than 28 days. The first test is carried out after 7 days. The marked cube is taken to a testing machine where high pressure is applied. Most of the testing machines are hydraulically operated. The force is transmitted to the cube via the machine plates, which are in direct contact with 2 opposite faces of the cube. The point at which the cube begins to crack is the maximum load allowed. The second cube is used for a similar test on the 28th day. The results of the tests are recorded carefully and the cubes are discarded. Please refer to workbook.